my left hand is an Apple Watch, and in my right hand is an analog watch. If you want to continue your life in comfort, choose this one. But if you want to enter a new hobby, challenge yourself, and even set your wallet on fire, choose this one. The choice is yours. Fade to black. So, last video I talked about my secret hobby, watches, and the feedback is intense. Some of you are hyped, some are panicked, and others, you're worried we're quitting keyboards forever. Well, are we? We'll get into this more later. But I also want to expose you to watches for the first time. All the fun stuff, the pitfalls, the wallet burning chaos. And if this isn't for you, you could at least learn vicariously through me. So if you're interested in watches or the future of this channel, stick around. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll know if watches are worth getting into for you or if you should run for the hills while you still can. So what now? How does one simply get into watches? Well, there are two options, and it's the same as keyboards, funnily enough. The first option is the most common. You look at all the watch brands out there, you pick your favorite, and you buy it. If you can afford it. But this comes with its own problems too, such as how do you know which one to get? And can you really stop at just one? For me, I have some watches that were gifted to me or passed down to me, one from Fossil and another from Citizen. And I've bought a G-Shock to wear at the gym, which I've been loving and talked about in Cool Tech. But the second path is something new and exciting, which I'll talk about more later. So how do you know which watch is right for you? As you know from keyboards, figuring out what to buy is a daunting task. What if it's not the right one? That's where research comes in. You can scour the internet to see what other people like, so you can decide if you want it too. But don't let all the pretty pictures convince you to impulse buy. Oh, the impulse buy. This is the biggest trap in all of watchland. You end up overspending on something you realize you don't even really want. But I found a secret remedy to this, and it's surprisingly simple. Yeah, you just make a list. If you see something you like, add it to your list. Then months later, you can see if it's still on your list, and then you can pick it up. Easy, right? But the deeper I go into watches, the more I realize this isn't just about watches. There's something bigger happening here. It's the same obsession, the same endless customization. It's the same cycle all over again. If that's the case, where does it end? And how does that impact the channel? I'll talk about this soon. But then what about all those confusing words you see, such as case size and movement type? It's like a different language. Remember how keyboards come in different sizes? Well, some watches are huge and just overpower your entire wrist, where others make your wrist look like a stubby sausage. There's no right or wrong. I mean, there sort of is. So pick up a tape measure and measure your wrist just above your ulna. And no, that's not my late grandmother. The ulna is the bone that sticks out right above your wrist. You could also go to a watch store and try on a bunch of watches, but who wants to go into a store and be surrounded by salespeople? A measurement you'll need to know to avoid this unpleasant experience is lug to lug, which sounds funny, but it's basically the distance from one metal bar to the other side. The rule of thumb is to make sure the lugs are within your wrist. Some watches have ginormous lugs, others have tiny ones, and it can make or break whether the watch will look good on you or not. Now it's frustrating because you won't see this on sales pages anywhere, which only tell you the diameter of the case, but the diameter alone won't tell you if it fits on your wrist properly or not. Hence why we use lug to lug. The next thing you'll need to know about are these little engines inside these watches called movements. Movements make the watch hands move and keep time accurately. There are two main categories, mechanical and quartz. A mechanical one doesn't use a battery. It runs on rotors, gears, springs, and other technology beyond my comprehension. A quartz watch, on the other hand, does run on a battery, which means you have to replace it every couple of years, but it's much more accurate than a mechanical watch. And under that are smaller subcategories like solar quartz. Those pretty much last forever. Then there's automatics, which is under mechanical, and these use the energy of your arm swinging around to keep it running. There are a ton of brands to choose from too, which will impact the price, look, and fit. Sure, you've got the big brands like Seiko, Rolex, Omega, and Casio, but there's also micro brands like Nomos, Baltic, and Christopher Ward. And like I said, hundreds more. You're bound to find something you like. Buying sounds fun, doesn't it? The options are endless. You got so many styles, dive watches, field watches, pilots, chronographs, dress watches, and more. So many unique watches to look at. and choose from. It's a bit overwhelming, which leads me to the next part of the journey. And this is the part I enjoy the most. It really makes the hobby feel like a hobby and not just endlessly buying stuff. And that's finding a community of people who are also interested in watches. You're exposed to what other people buy, and you can learn from their mistakes and successes. There's also a thriving group of watch creators that you can get more ideas from. My favorites are Britt Pierce and Teddy Bulbasaur. And if you want to go even farther, you can join the Watches subreddit. Oh man, this is where things get really interesting. You scroll down, and oh, that looks nice. Then you look it up and realize it costs more than a used car. Don't worry, that's just the part of the natural progression of a watch hobbyist. The definition of budget gets warped slowly over time. And this is where it all starts to spiral. You think you're safe. You think, oh, I'll just buy one. Then suddenly $500 seems reasonable. $1,000? Understandable. $5,000? Well, that's a good deal. And that's when you realize you're in something much bigger. A system, a cycle, an addiction. And that's when the real question hits. Is this really what I want the channel to become? We'll get into that soon. That was a bit dramatic, wasn't it? But what if you didn't just want to buy one? What if you could customize every single aspect to your exact preferences? That's right, you can build it yourself. It's fun, it's rewarding, and it's semi-affordable. Like, it's actually not that bad. You can buy parts from AliExpress, which I know sounds a little scary, and sometimes it's a bit of a gamble. There are other stores too, like Lucius Atelier or Namoki Mods, but these are more expensive and have higher quality parts. If you're just starting out, I'd go AliExpress. I'll probably make a video on this eventually, but if you're a go-getter, then these are the parts you need. A movement, a case to put it all into, a dial to make it look pretty, and a set of hands to tell the time. Oh, and watch stems. Don't forget those. And then the tools. You'll need some specialized equipment. I'll talk about more in another video if you're interested. But it's not all easy going from there. Here are some things I learned the hard way from building my first 3 watches. The first is to actually make sure your parts fit together. There's an easy trick to make sure this works. Just type the movement name in front of everything when you search. So if your movement is NH35, which is a super common Japanese Seiko movement, you'll search NH35 case, NH35 dial, NH35 hands. You get the idea. Then everything should fit. Should, in theory. You may need to trim some stuff with flush cutters and sand them down, but you got this. Another piece of advice for you new watch builders, make sure to wear those silly finger condoms. Dust and fingerprints are your enemy, and it'll make your watch look so bad. Also, be gentle. Apparently, watch parts are more fragile than keyboard parts. Who knew? Those watch hands, they bend like paper if you're too rough. Your first build may not be perfect. Mine sure wasn't. I chose a black dial, then switched it to blue, and now it's orange. At this point, I should probably stop and ask myself, am I even into watches? Or do I just like chasing the next cool thing? Is this a dopamine kick? Oh no. Is this just keyboards? All over again? Here are my favorite watch builds so far. I managed to break one, but you know, it happens. I first built this orange one. It was black. It's based off of a super popular watch called the Rolex Oyster Perpetual. And then there's this one, a white dial that I was inspired by a Reddit post. Pretty much copied it exactly, but I put it on a leather strap. Then the third one I broke. I'm not sure what happened to it, but it doesn't keep time right, but I like the design, so I'll fix it at some point in time. But what about the channel? Am I a watch creator now? While I really enjoy watches, there's a cycle to it. Like any hobby, there's periods of high intensity where it's all you think about, followed by slow periods, and then sure enough, it comes in and out of your life over and over again. It's happened to me with audiophile stuff, PC building, and I even had a pen kick for a while, and now watches. I always hoped the channel would eventually expand into general tech. Phones, tablets, maybe some productivity gear, and whatever weird hobbies I get sucked into along the way. Like this one. I don't want to just leave the keyboard audience behind, but there has to be a balance. My goal at the end of the day is to make content that you're interested in, but also what I'm interested in too. It's to share things that are exciting, useful, and actually improve people's lives. Because let's be honest, most tech out there doesn't do that. It isolates us, it stresses us out, and and it makes us unhealthy. But I want to explore the other side of tech, the tech that actually makes people's lives better, and keyboards are a part of that. If all of this seems like your kind of vibe, stick around. We can hang out together and see where this road takes us. And if you hate it, let me know by commenting down below. I actually read a lot of the comments. I want to know what you think. I want to know what excites you and what you want to see more of. So leave a comment down below and I'll see you down there. Bye!